the energies work, about the chakra system, and about the different bodies. So, what we heard is just a part of it. So, we will be learning in detail today from Mr. Pradeep. I welcome Mr. Pradeep to take over the session.
Yeah, thank you, Shalini. So again, namaste, friends. Welcome all to this day 2. So, friends, we have discussed yesterday about the seven bodies and the self-healing process. And yesterday we have seen about uh, the element of fear, how the fear affects our root chakra and how it affects our very feeling safe, the being connected physically within and being grounded. Okay, so this is what we have gone through yesterday, the seven bodies and the life after death. And these 3 stages of healing is identification, processing, and integration, and the 7 major chakras. So yesterday we have discussed how to understand our chakras. We understand our chakras using pattern analysis. So we analyze our bodies, our behavior, our thoughts, our coping strategies, the illness we manifest, and the environment we are in, the surroundings we are in, the families we are born into, the friends we have, the work we do, the job we do, everything comes under environment. And how do you cope excessive? If you do excessive, then again, it is not a healthy strategy. If it is deficient, again, it's not a healthy strategy. So you have to have a balanced coping strategy. You cannot escape from your problems and you cannot put too much energy into the problems. Then you are in the extremes. So a balanced way of coping your challenges is a must. And yesterday we discussed about the root chakra, which is the fear, and we need to transform the energy of the fear into trust. Then also, some people, they believe in chakra healing, right? So they go to some healers, they say, okay, so can you heal my chakra? Chakra healing is not possible by a healer. It is something illogical. How can somebody else take away my fears? See, as long as I still have fears inside me, that means my root chakra is not in balance. So how can anybody, how can a healer, how can any other guru take away my fears? It's not possible. You pay some money, and is it possible somebody can take away your fears? Absolutely not possible. And some people, they go through this pranic healers, some people, they go through this reiki healers for this healing. Yes, this reiki healing. So what the reiki healing happens is, how does the reiki healing work is, they transfer some amount of their pranic energy. They become a medium and they allow the pranic energy to come through them, and they heal the person. So that is very temporary. Yes, you will feel a little bit of well-being and you feel like it's the issue is healed, but it is very temporary, my dear friends. It's only for 3 months or 2 months or maximum 6 months. After that, the same problem is going to come because you didn't heal it permanently from within. So that's why we say the self-healing process is the permanent process. And in the process of self-healing, you are going to be empowered. You are no more the same person. You are an expanded consciousness. You are an empowered person. You have discovered your own mastery. So when you heal yourself, you discover your own inner mastery. But when you depend on others to heal you, then you are in an illusion that's never going to work. So the self-healing is the permanent solution, my dear friends. If somebody else heals you, that is still a temporary, and that's going to create more bad karma for you and also the healer. So you should be very careful not to go to any healers, and start working on yourself through your meditation practice, being a vegetarian, and following the spiritual laws, the law of karma, following the spiritual law, the beautiful law, the law of karma. You can really heal yourself. It's very simple. Understand the law of karma. Don't do anything bad to anybody. Start doing good to the people. Become a vegetarian and do meditation. If you do these 3 things, only these 3 things, if you can heal yourself, whatever it might be, you can heal yourself. Of course, it might take some time, but if you have patience and if you trust, you will heal yourself and you will permanently heal yourself. And most importantly, that healing helps you towards the path of your enlightenment. That is the most important thing, my dear friends. So we have gone through all those, the characteristics of deficient, excessive, and how the balanced characteristics will be. And we have gone through these issues and also the physical disorders of the first chakra. And what to do? As we told, meditation, becoming a vegetarian, understand the law of karma, and bring in the trust. So now let us go to the second chakra, which is the sacral chakra, the chakra which deals with your emotions. In Sanskrit, it is called Swadhisthana, and uh, this chakra deals with how you feel, and how you handle your emotions, and how you handle your sexuality is very much associated with this chakra. And this chakra is very, very important. All the chakras are important, but the first three chakras are really important. If you don't handle these first three chakras, the higher chakras cannot be balanced. So again, the demon energy which affects this second chakra is the energy of the guilt. Now, guilt is an energy. If you are feeling guilty, that means you are stuck in your second chakra and your emotions are totally out of the spin, and you are stuck in your sexuality. You are stuck. Either you reject sexuality, or you become too much excessive into sexuality, and sometimes people become perverts also because they are not handling their emotions properly. So dealing with the emotions, dealing with your sexuality is very necessary for your spiritual growth, my dear friends. At least you need to be aware what is that you need to work on it. If you are not aware, there's no way you can work on it. So how we are going to transform this energy? So the energy of the guilt, when you, if the guilt is not there, then what is that energy which is there? So what is the opposite energy of guilt? You need to think in terms of energetically. If you're not feeling guilty, then how do you feel? You feel your innocence. Every child who is born with innocence, is born innocent. So the more and more you work on this second chakra, the more and more you discover your own innocence, my dear friends. Jesus Christ said, unless you become a childlike, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. This is a beautiful statement from Jesus Christ. Unless you become a childlike, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. It's not possible, ruled out. You cannot even enter the kingdom of God. So becoming a childlike means you rediscovering your own innocence. A child is innocent. A child is a symbol of innocence. So becoming a childlike means the innocence is already there inside you. Deep inside you, the innocence is there. You don't need to bring the innocence from outside of you. By the very birth, we are all born with pure innocence. So the innocence is already there, but we have covered with layers and layers of conditioning, programming of the family, programming of the society, programming of the teachers, programming. So we have put so much of programming, we have put so much of mask, and the innocence is lost deep within. And what we have outwardly is guilt. So the more and more you work on this guilt energy, the more and more you remove the barriers, layer by layer by layer, you remove. And the only thing which remains within you, your authentic you is your own innocence. So when you discovered your own authentic innocence, then you enter the kingdom of God. So that is the saying of Jesus Christ. So let us understand a little more about this chakra. What are the issues which affect our emotional well-being? Because the second chakra deals with our own emotional well-being. So what are the factors which affect? So when it comes to the second chakra, the family plays a very, very important role. So what kind of a family you are born into? What is the emotional climate of your family? Is your family members, they are open hearted, or they are close hearted? Are they loving, or they are a bit harsh? Or is your father and mother, are they happy? Are they in a loving relationship? Or if they are having too much quarrels and they are not in alignment, if the father and mother is not in alignment within themselves, if the emotions of father and mother is not in balance, then definitely it affects the child. So the emotional climate of the family plays a very important role when it comes to this second chakra. And the children go through a lot. It is the childhood which really affects this second chakra. It plays a very important role. The lack of affection. You see, children, they need affection. All the children, they need affection. They need hugs. Every child want to be embraced. Every child want to be affectionate. But if the parents are not willing to be affectionate when the child needs it, the parents are too busy in their work, they're too busy in their own financial dramas, they're too busy in their own survival issues, and they don't have time towards the child, then the child feels a lack of affection. And these days, because of the iPhones and the mobiles, I think the parents are spending more time with their mobiles rather than their children. So that has become a very sad state of affairs. So the lack of affection, something when the child really needs the affection, that is the time the parent should be ready. That's the time the parent should be available to show that affection. Or else the emotional balance of the child becomes very much out of balance. And again, the traumas and abuses really affects the way the child feels, right? If the parents are scolding, if the parents are raising their voice, it really affects the emotions of the child. And also the parents, they force the child to not to feel in a certain way, because you see the children, they are very authentic. The children are very authentic. They exhibit, when they are happy, they exhibit naturally. When they are sad, they exhibit very naturally. They don't have any layers. The children don't have any layers. They are very authentic. What they feel, they exhibit. But the parents, sometimes they manipulate, they interfere and ask the child, hey, don't cry, don't do this, don't do that, you cannot do this way, you cannot be angry, you cannot be this. So what happens? The child feels confused. So child feels confused, like, I'm expressing my emotion, but my parents are asking me not to do it. So what do I do? So the child starts being frozen. So these frozen emotions really brings up either or thinking. So I'll explain what is this either or thinking, and also the frozen emotions also brings in the shadow aspect. Now this is a very, very important area to understand, because this is a very deep subject, and you have to understand with a lot of minute details. Either or thinking. What is a either or thinking? And either or thinking means, you see, we have infinite possibilities. Every one of us has infinite possibilities in front of us. But if your emotions are frozen, then you cannot see that infinite possibilities. You will go through either this or that. Your choices will be limited to only 2 or 3. I'll give an example. A child, if you ask a student, okay, what subject you want to study? So the student will say, oh, okay, so what choices I have? Either I have to be an engineer or I have to be a doctor. So then only the society respects me. So yeah, the choices in front of me are either to become a doctor or to become an engineer. So that's an either or thinking. But the reality is, the student has infinite choices. He can be a psychiatrist, he can be a journalist, he can be an engineer, he can be a farmer, he can be a technician, he can be a carpenter, he can be anything. There are so many things. But he programs himself that the choices are very limited. There's only few choices. So that is an either or thinking. He's incapable to see the infinite choices. The choices are there in front of him, but he is not capable to see the choices because his emotions are frozen. If the emotions are frozen, then your thinking is always either or. Either this is right or this is wrong. So there is no gray area in between. So these people, for them, it's either a right thing or a wrong thing, but there is no gray area. They cannot see the gray area at all. They are just either black or white. So the rest of the gray area doesn't appear to them. So that is very restricting towards their discovering their own true potential. So this happens because of the frozen emotions. And then the other aspect which it affects is the shadow. Okay, the shadow means, I'll give an example, you will understand. For example, if you are born and brought up in a very conservative family. You are born and brought up in a very, very conservative family, and right from your childhood, your parents never spoke about your sexual feelings. The society doesn't speak about it, and they label the sex as something bad, and then you suppress all your sexual feelings inside you, and then there is a lot of conditioning in your mind that the woman has to be this way, the men has to be this way, and the woman has to dress in a certain way, and then only the woman is accepted. So these are all then oppressive environments, the social conditioning. If we are brought up into, then the moment you see a lady wearing a very revealing clothes, wearing a very sexy clothes, and then you immediately, when you see that lady, you label, oh, that lady is bad, the lady's character is bad. So you immediately judge another person. So whenever you are judging somebody else, you are reflecting your shadow. You see, you have to ask this question: if somebody is not dressing the way you want to, and they are dressing the way they want to, what is your problem? So the lady can wear any kind of dress, whatever she wants to. It is her choice, it is her free will. But what is bothering you? But something is bothering you inside. You immediately want to condemn that lady. You immediately want to pass judgments. You immediately want to label that lady. Why you are doing that? You are doing that because there is a suppressed emotion. That is your shadow. So what you judge in others is your shadow self. Whatever might be the judgment, you are judging, that reflects the exact issue. Whatever you are judging, the same issue is inside you, and that is your shadow. For example, you see a rich man, you see a very rich man driving a super expensive car, and he's exhibiting all his richness. And you see and you say, oh, he's a big show off. Why does he need to show off that? He's having this attitude that he's rich. Why is he showing off? So people judge. So why people judge? Because it is their shadow. Because deep down, emotionally, they have suppressed all the desires to be successful. They have suppressed all the emotions. They cannot be as successful as them. So when they cannot be as successful as them, then something troubles you inside. And when something troubles you, you pass judgments. Then the gossip happens. So that is your shadow. So you have to understand, my dear friends, your judgments, all your judgments are your shadows. And this is a very, very important area. Unless you are totally aware each and every moment, it is not possible for you to catch hold of your shadow aspect. Now, what do you do when you see somebody and when you are judging them? What do you do? So when you're judging them, that moment you become aware and you catch hold of yourself. Yes, I'm judging them because something is bothering me inside. If nothing bothers you, you will never judge. If nothing bothers you, you will never judge. Because something is bothering you, you are judging. So what you are judging is exactly what you need to look within you. What is the emotion which is suppressed within you that has caused that judgment? So when you look deep within yourself, you will understand, oh, this is the emotion I have frozen. This is the emotion, I need to deal with it. The moment you identify it, then how to deal with it is very simple. Identification is the key. Identification sometimes is challenging, but once you identify it, then you know absolutely how to work on it. And the next is feeling enmeshed and emotional blackmail. The parents normally, they do a lot of emotional blackmail, especially in India. In the foreign countries, in the Western countries, there is no that much of an emotional blackmail. But in the Asian and especially in the Indian society, there is a lot of emotional blackmail. They will say, okay, only when you get first mark, when you get the first grade, or only when you get the first rank, no, we will be happy. You will make your parents happy only when you become a doctor. You will make your parents happy when you become a successful scientist or an engineer. So these kind of words, it appears like they are very harmless. It appears like the parents are just expressing, but the hidden intentions are they are emotionally blackmailing the child. The child goes through an emotional blackmail. The child's emotion goes through a complete blackmail state, that, oh, so only if I am in a particular position, or only when I perform well in my studies, or only when I do well in the sports, then only my parents love me. So the child starts doing the things what the parents feel happy about, because the child is looking for love, the child is looking for affection. So the child goes through a blackmail and starts doing the things, but the child loses the contact of what it really wants. The child loses what I want, but rather I will do what my parents want. So then it is called an enmeshed child. So when this thing happen, then there is an enmesh. Enmesh means entanglement. So if you don't know what you want and you start doing the things what others want, then you are enmeshed. For example, if you are doing the things which makes your parents happy, or your wife happy, or your husband happy, or your children happy, you are doing the things to make the people around you happy, that means you are enmeshed. In other words, you have to be a little bit careful here. Anything and everything you want to do is something because it makes you feel happy. You see, if it makes you happy to take care of your wife, to take care of your parents, if it really makes you happy, then you have to do it. But if you are doing for them to make happy, then that is not correct. So then it is an enmeshed. So in this way, what happens? You cannot identify your own desires. Some people, they cannot identify their own desires. Some people, they cannot identify their own feelings. Some people, they cannot identify their own emotions. They say, as long as my wife is happy, I am happy. As long as my children are happy, I am happy. As long as my parents are happy, I am happy. So this is enmeshed. So if your happiness depends on others' happiness, then you are an enmeshed child. If you are an enmeshed child, then there are no boundaries. There are no boundaries for between you and another person. If another person is happy, you are happy. If the other person is sad, you are sad. So your remote control is in somebody else's hands. So that is a great emotional slavery, my dear friends. So you need to be absolutely be aware what is this enmeshed nature. Are you in this enmeshed nature? You need to reflect back. Everything and anything you do, it should be absolutely for your joy. If it is not in your joy, then you will never do it. So a person who has a healthy emotion will do the things only for his or his joy. His or her joy. So when you do for yourself, then there is no expectations. You don't expect anything from others. Whatever you do to others, there is no expectation in return, because you are simply doing it for your joy. So when there is no expectations, then there is no frustrations. So where there is no expectations, there is no frustrations. So you are a liberated person. Your happiness is in your hands. So that's a healthy way of doing it. And now again, especially the cravings, pleasures. You see, the people who are stuck into this the second chakra, they are more of they chase the pleasures. They go behind the pleasures. You know, as a child, if your cravings are not taken care of, like if the child wants to eat an ice cream, or the child wants to eat some food, and if the parents are restricting them, oh, no, 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 you should not eat that, you should not do this. So the child's emotion gets a little bit frozen, and then when the child grows up, then the child becomes cravings. The child have a lot of cravings towards that food. So whenever the child sees that food, then the cravings comes. So cravings means whenever there is a uncontrolled desire that you want it, you really want it. So that is a craving. And then it might, in severe cases, it might lead to addictions into drugs, addictions into alcohol, addictions into even food, and addictions into substances like, you know, heroin and all those abusive substances. So people get addicted. So all the alcoholics, all the people who are addicted, their second chakra is very much in damage. They all need to work on the second chakra. And the people who have a lot of cravings towards the food, cravings towards pleasure, whether it can be the pleasure of sex or whether it can be the pleasure of anything, any kind of pleasure, like all kinds of pleasures. If it is not in balance, if it goes beyond a certain limit, then it becomes cravings. When the cravings goes into super heightened state, then it becomes addiction. So where there is absolutely no control, you cannot control your cravings, you become a slave of your cravings, then that is addiction. So this also is something which affects. And sexual abuse and rape definitely affects the second chakra, whether as a child or as an adult. The sexual abuse and rape. So one thing about this sexual abuse and rape, it doesn't affect the second chakra alone. It affects every single chakra, because remember I told you every chakra is connected to every chakra. So with the sexual abuse, definitely all the chakras goes into a great uh, out of the place. So this is a very traumatic situation. So one needs to really bring their energy back to the centers to really deal with this. It is something unfortunate the humanity is going through. Why do people go into this? Why do people become perverted? Why do people rape? Why do people go into that abusive sexual abuse? Because the person who is doing that is also affected. The person who commits a rape is also affected. He's also a victim. Because he is a victim, he's already in suffering. He's already in pain. Because he's already in suffering, he's already in pain. So what he can do is only what he has. If you are a happy person, you can radiate happiness. If you are a sad person, you can radiate only sadness. And if your emotional chakras, if your second chakra is totally damaged and you are a victim, so naturally your actions will also be perverted. So what you have, you will only do that. So it is very important. We need to look into our own emotions, our own sexuality, because the more you are healthy, the more you will radiate it. So if you want a society free of sexual abuse, then it's really, we need to start working. Each one of us, we need to start looking into ourselves, and we should handle the victims with utmost care. So the more and more you handle the victims, the more and more you stop the chain of abuse, of sexual abuse, because the same victims, when they grow up, they become the abusers. So the victims in their childhood becomes the abusers when they become adult. So when you are dealing with a victim with great sensitivity, with the proper understanding of this subject, then you are making sure the cycle of abuse to the next generation is broken. So this is something important, my dear friends. And let us see what are the qualities people who have the deficient energy in the second chakra. So the people who are in deficient category, they lack feeling. There is no passion, there is no desire. They are very lifeless. They're almost lifeless. They don't have passion in life. I want to do this, I want to do that. There is no passion, there is no desire. They're just lame and they are dull people. And there is a very low emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence means your ability to understand how another person is going through emotionally, what another person is feeling. Is the other person sad? Is another person happy? Is the other person a little bit upset? So what is the other person going through? And your ability to understand another person is your own emotional intelligence, my dear friends. And poor social skills. So these people, they don't have much friends. They don't know how to socialize. They like to be secluded. They like to keep themselves closed. And they have excessive boundaries. Excessive boundaries means they put a wall, they put boundaries emotionally, they put boundaries around them. So it is very hard for the outside people to make friendship with them, because they give signals. I'm not interested in you, I'm not interested in making friendship with you, I'm not interested in any relationship with you, just leave me alone. So these people, they become very rigid because they have excessive boundaries. And these people, they deny pleasure. Even though they don't have money, they don't know how to enjoy themselves. They might have a lot of property, but they don't know how to go for a holiday. They don't know how to take a vacation. They don't know to take care of their own pleasures. So they deny their own pleasures. Okay. And also these people, they have diminished sexual feelings, or they have fear of sex. So these people, they avoid sex because they fear sex. They avoid sex. And these people, sometimes they remain as singles. They don't go into relationship. They don't go into marriage. They remain single, and they don't want to do anything with sex. So they shut off from themselves. Their own feelings, their own sexual feelings are closed. It's dormant. So that is the deficient, my friends. So let us see how an excessive person will be. So the person who is with an excessive second chakra, they are ruled by their emotions. So they are very, very sensitive people. They are very sensitive people, and they are ruled by their emotions. So what does mean that ruled by their emotions? So they don't follow their buddhi, they don't follow their wisdom, they follow their emotions. Whatever they feel good, they do it. They don't discern whether it is the right thing, whether it's the wrong thing. They don't discern. So their emotions are guiding them, their actions. So if their actions are guided by their emotions, that means they are ruled by their emotions. They are a slave to their own emotions. And these people, they are oversensitive. They are really sensitive, and they are oversensitive, and they become emotional dictators. So what does an emotional dictator mean? An emotional dictator is a person who wants everybody to follow what they feel. Like, I'll give an example. uh, like the father might have said, okay, today evening we'll go for a movie. After I come back from work, we'll go for a movie. So this is what the father said. But in the work, he had a very bad time, and he had scoldings from his boss, and he is emotionally upset. So when he comes home, and the children and the wife, they are very happy. Let's say they say, oh, okay, let's go to the movie. And he goes, okay, do you know what is happening in my life? Do you know what happened today in my work? Do you know how am I going through? I'm going through very much upset. The movie is cancelled. We are not going anywhere. I want to take rest. That's it, finished. So this is an emotional dictator. So what emotions he is going through, he wants everybody to go through that emotion. He doesn't see that, oh, this is my emotion, I don't need to throw that emotion on others. He doesn't do that. So he wants everybody in his family to feel his emotions. So he is an emotional dictator. Okay. And also inability to form boundaries. So these people, because they are too sensitive, and this chakra is blown up out of the proportion, so they don't know how to form the boundaries. Some people, they say, oh, some people, they listen to other people sharing their own sadness and illness, and these people, they start feeling sad. Sometimes, you go to the movies, and sometimes you see an emotional scene, and then you start crying. So that means there is no boundary. You cannot see that that's just a movie. You connect your emotion with their emotion. So there is no boundaries. Suppose, like, as I said, if the wife is sad, then the husband by default becomes sad. Because the wife is sad, the husband is also sad. Or the husband is sad, the wife is also sad. So there is no boundaries. There is no boundaries that it is my sadness or it is your sadness, and it is nothing to do with me. Yes, I understand you are sad, but I don't need to be sad. I have my own emotion. So these people, they don't know how to put boundaries. There is no boundaries. So these people, they become codependent. They really become codependent. They cannot survive on their own. They always feel somebody should be along with them all the time. There should be somebody. So these people, they don't have a strong individual footing on themselves. So whenever they travel anywhere, they want somebody to be with them all the time. Even if they want to do any activity, they want their friends or they want their wife or husband to be with them all the time. So there is a high codependency there. And these people, they are seductive, and they are also manipulative, because these people, they have too much energy. So they use this energy to manipulate, unconsciously or consciously, doesn't matter, but they eventually become manipulative. They manipulate others for their own feelings, for their own desires. They manipulate others. They also become seductive. Seductive means displaying your manipulative skills to seduce another person sexually. And these people, they are pleasure addicts, and they have a lot of cravings, addictions. All this comes under excessive. Remember, in the deficient, the sexual feelings are not there, the pleasure is not there. But in excessive, they go behind the pleasures. They always want to be high. They always want to, buy new things, go to new restaurants and buy new clothes and buy new cars. They always keep on going behind their pleasures. There is nothing in balance. So they do overdo it. So they become pleasure addicts. And let us see what are the balanced characteristics. A balanced characteristics, a person who is in balance, so he is an emotional literate. What does an emotional literate mean? He can trust his own feelings and he can able to read others' feelings. So he becomes an emotional literate. And then they have very healthy boundaries. Okay, while they are sensitive to understand others' feelings, they don't let the others' feelings to affect them. So that means they have a healthy emotional boundaries and they have a healthy sexuality. What is healthy sexuality? Healthy sexuality is something you accept your sexuality within you and you express what you want to your loved ones without any manipulation. You express innocently, you express, and you be authentic. When you're authentic to your own feelings, then that is a healthy sexuality. Without any manipulation, when there is authenticity, there is a healthy sexuality. And balanced approach to pleasure and enjoyment in life. There is a balance of pleasure and enjoyment. They still go for pleasures, but they know when to stop it, where to stop it. So there is a balance. And they have a lot of passion for life. They look forward for the life. They understand the life gives them so much of passion, so much of learnings they go through in this process. So there is a lot of passion. They are eagerly looking for what is there, what today is going to offer. So when they get up from the bed, they are full of passion. They are looking forward for the day. So these are all the balanced characteristics, my dear friends. And let us go through the issues. So these are the questions you have to ask yourself. So when you ask yourself these questions, then there is a high possibility that you can identify the issues. In the chakra workshops we do, some people they say, oh, we can't identify anything in the either in the deficient or in the excessive. I think we are balanced. Most of the time it is wrong. If you cannot identify yourself either in the excessive or in the deficient, so that means you don't know how to identify it, or in other words, you are not aware enough to identify your own issues. Because remember, even to identify your issues, you need a certain level of awareness. If you don't have a certain level of awareness, even to identify your own issues become difficult. So friends, if all these chakras are in balance, that means you are enlightened. So it is very important we start working on our issues, we start identifying our issues, and we should not feel guilty about it. There is no need to feel guilty. Even if you have done something bad, you don't need to feel guilty about it, because everybody does bad, everybody does mistakes. Everybody does mistakes, and out of the mistakes, you learn. So when you learn from your mistakes, then there is no need to feel bad. But if you don't learn from your mistakes, then you feel guilty. So it is very important we are very honest and we are willing to learn from every single mistakes and every single failure, my dear friends. That is something very important when you are dealing with this second chakra. Okay, how do you see your failures is something very, very important. If you see your failure as a stepping stone, then that is the right attitude. But if you let the failure create guilt within you, then you are stuck in your second chakra. So let us ask these questions towards our own self. Emotional health. Do you express your feelings spontaneously? Do you have the tendency to hide your feelings in front of others? Now, if the answer is yes for these questions, then something you need to work on it. Okay, so do you trust your feelings and make decisions independently, or you constantly seek others' opinion in order to make decisions? If you cannot make a decision by yourself and you are always seeking second opinion from another person, so then there is something you need to look into it. Do you speak about the past events with regret? Anything you speak about your past, do you speak out of regret or you speak it as something you learned? So how do you speak about the past events? Okay, and again, the second is, are you in touch with your desires? Do you know what your desires are? Unfortunately, most people, they don't know what their desires are. They don't know. They really don't know what their desires are. You know, they are not in touch with their desires. They deep down what they want, they don't know, because they suppressed all the emotions. Do you feel shameful for having certain desires? For example, if you are feeling sexual, or if you're, if you're going through an abortion, or if you don't want to have children now, do you feel shameful? Your own desires makes you feel shameful. That means there is something you need to look into it. Your desires are your desires. That is your own authentic desires. There should be nothing shameful about it. But if you are feeling shameful, then there is something you need to look into it. Do you find time for relaxation? Do you take time for relaxation and connect with yourself and connect with your feelings? Do you relax? Or you're always working, 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 going round and round and round? What are you? Are you satisfied with your playtime? You know, do you have sufficient time for you to play like a child? We all have a playtime. The adults also can play. Or do you have a playtime? And when it comes to intimacy and connections, how comfortable, how comfortable are you in your intimate relationships? Are you really comfortable with your intimate partner, or you're not comfortable? So do you trust the opposite sex? If you are a male, do you trust females? Or if you're a female, do you trust male? Do you trust the opposite sex? Do you fear losing your spouse? Do you fear losing your wife? Do you fear losing your husband? So do you fear losing your intimate partner's spouse? Do you fear that? Do you feel rejection in a relationship? Do you feel like, okay, unless I do this, the other person will not accept me? So do you feel rejection? If I'm not in a certain way, then I might be out of the relationship. So I have to do certain things to be in this relationship. Are you forcing yourself to not to be natural? Are you natural in a relationship, or you are forcing yourself, or you're doing yourself certain things to be in a relationship? So these are the questions you need to ask. And some of the physical disorders which goes associated with this chakra is disorders of reproductive organs, urinary system, and spleen. The people who have this imbalanced chakra, they go through these issues with these reproductive organs, and especially the woman, they go through this menstrual difficulties. Their menstrual cycle will not be regular, and it's sometimes very painful. And sexual dysfunction and lower back pain. Constantly, you have lower back pain and knee trouble, the lack of flexibility. Your body is not flexible, your body is more rigid, and there is a deadness. There is the senses, your senses are very dead. Like if you taste something, you cannot precisely taste what it is. You cannot describe the taste. Your senses are dead. And the loss of appetite for food, loss of appetite for sex and life. So these are all some of the physical disorders, my dear friends. So how do you deal with it? Now, the pull is the same, and pull is a must, regular meditation. If you don't do meditation regularly, then there is no way you can be aware of yourself, and there is no way you have the energy to process it. So remember, you need a lot of meditation to identify the issues. You need a lot of meditation to get so that you can process it, you can face all the issues. So you need a lot of energy. Again, for cosmic energy, you need more meditation. And for integration, the third step in the healing process is integration. For integration, you need a lot of witnessing. You need a lot of witness means when you witnessing in your deep meditative states, and also witnessing in the wakeful state. So unless you practice deep meditations, you cannot be in a witness state in the wakeful state. So when you are in a witness consciousness in the wakeful state, then the integration happens. Then you learn the lessons and you integrate the lessons in your day-to-day life. So you need a great amount of witnessing capacity. So that comes only when you do really regularly deep meditation and regular meditation. So that's why the pull becomes very, very important, my dear friends. And along with it, the push. The push is something you can do along with the pull, which is supportive. The first thing you have to understand is guilt. Guilt is a poison to the soul, my dear friends. So you have to please note this point. If at all you are feeling guilty, you should immediately take away that guilt. Whatever the mistake you have done, there is no need to feel guilty. If you allow the guilt energy to come in, you are poisoning your soul. Your soul shrinks and you are poisoning yourself. And that is absolutely not the right way to go forward in life. And if you learn from your mistakes, so it is very, as I told you before, any mistake you have done, if you learn from that mistake, the same mistake, you show gratitude. You show gratitude that because of that mistake, I have learned this lesson. So when you're doing, you do as many mistakes as possible. Life gives us so much opportunities to learn. Do as many mistakes as possible, but don't repeat the mistake. It is very important you don't repeat the mistake and you learn the lessons from the mistakes. As long as you are learning the lessons from your mistakes, do as many mistakes as possible, but without repeating. If you repeat the mistake, that means you didn't learn the lesson. So the more you learn the lessons, the more you will not allow the guilt energy to come through. And forgiving is another important tool. If you want to work, if you really want to work on this chakra, you have to forgive yourself for all the mistakes you have done, knowingly or unknowingly. You have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive others. The more you forgive yourself, the more you have the capacity to forgive others, my dear friends. Sometimes forgiving others becomes very, very difficult because the other person has done a very tremendous bad thing and you cannot forgive. So you just understand the other person has done his own best to whatever his soul capacity, to whatever he is capable of, he has done. So he has done bad, yes, but that is what he is capable of. So what can you do? So when you understand whatever the other person has done, that is according to his own capacity, then it becomes easy to forgive another person. And if you can't forgive, at least forget it. Forgive. If you can't forgive, at least forget it and move forward. If you forget and move forward, then you are not letting the emotions froze. And stop all judgments, self judgments, and also the judgments of others. The more you are, why Jesus Christ said, "Judge not," because the more you are judging, the more you are telling about yourself. That is your shadow. The more you are judging another person, the more you are just telling the whole world about you, about your shadow aspect. So you need to be very careful. So when you are very careful and when you are very aware of your judgments, then it becomes an opportunity to look into your own shadow aspects and let your emotions flow. You know, your emotions has to be like a river. Whenever you are feeling emotional, you just remember the river. The river always, the water flows in the river. So let your emotions flow. You accept it. You accept your emotions. You say, yes, you acknowledge your emotions. Yes, I'm feeling sad. You acknowledge it and you accept it. And then let the emotions flow. Don't get stuck to that emotion. Let the new emotion come. You see the child. You have to learn a lot from the child. The child is sad one moment, and the next moment you give a chocolate, the child is immediately happy. The child lets go the emotion of sadness because the child is ready for the new emotion. The child is always ready for new emotion. You cannot see a child emotionally stuck for days and days and days. You know, an adult can be emotionally stuck, but a child will never be emotionally stuck. An adult, suppose, for example, if a man is having a fight with his wife before going to office, and then he goes to the office, he works for 8 to 10 hours, and he comes back from the work, again, he's still upset with the wife because he's still holding on to that emotion. But for a child, the child is spontaneous. The child doesn't know how to hold the emotions. So whenever you are feeling emotional, so you should immediately get the example of the river, like let the emotions flow, and get the example of a child and always be spontaneous. Let the new emotion replace the old ones. Don't get stuck with the old ones. And also the other aspect which helps is whenever you are feeling very emotionally vulnerable, whenever you are feeling emotionally tired, go for a shower. Go for a shower. Take as long shower as possible. The more you are spending time in the shower, in the nature, in the water energies, especially the water energies. If you're dealing with the second chakra, you have to take the help of the water energies. You know, the more you spend time in the shower, being in the present moment, the water energies helps you to let go of that emotions and you feel very light. So these are some of the things you can do as a push, my dear friends.
Yes, Pradeep. So we're very happy. So there was a very clear and brief description about the chakras and how the feelings would be and how we can relate ourselves in that particular situation, especially because a lot of incidents would have been inside us and how to cleanse ourselves completely. So
Yes.
your presentation, I felt it was very simple and elegant. We can
Oh,
connect it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So we have a lot of members who have raised their hands.
Yeah.
So
There is a question about Vastu, connectivity of Vastu with pyramid energy, sir.
Yeah. To answer in precise, uh, the pyramids, wherever there is a lack of energy, Vastu is to make sure there is a proper energy flow. So where there are pyramids, there is an energy generation, there is amplification of energy. So where pyramids are, there is no need of to worry about the Vastu. That is a simple answer.
There is a question regarding like my daughter can't take decision on her career, so how to help her? He's trying to help his daughter.
Okay, so your daughter cannot take a decision on her career, so that is a very clear indication that her childhood also played a very important role in whatever the situation she was in. So the only way you can help your daughter is to first teach her meditation so that uh, she receives more and more energy. And number two, you be very sensitive. As a mother, if you are very sensitive and receptive to your daughter and you are open without any judgments, you are open for whatever your daughter wants, then that will motivate your daughter to speak up what she really wants. So when it comes to the emotions, you see, it is very important. When it comes to emotions, it becomes very important. You are sensitive. You are sensitive to your loved ones. So the more you are sensitive, receptive, at the same time, without any judgments, because the second chakra deals with sensitivities, judgments, and all those things. So without being judgmental, you are sensitive, and you are just giving a confidence. You are giving a trust to your daughter that whatever the decision she takes, you are there to support her. And it is very important she trusts her feelings. So when you try to motivate her and educate her about the importance that she trusts her own feelings, along with meditation, I think the situation will be improved, and I think that is going to help your daughter. So here the key indicators are number one, teach meditation to your daughter, and number two, be sensitive, and number three, have absolutely no judgments, and number four, be receptive and create a trust that you are there. As a mother, you are there. So the first point you're saying is you want to continue this series for the other chakras, because this chakra subject is a very intense subject, because the more
Yes.
the more you are understanding this, the more you are empowering yourself, the more you are transforming yourself, and this is the path of enlightenment, and this is the path of self-realization. So yes, we will find a way. I think we'll speak with the Pyramid Valley team to see that this series continues on with more examples and more case studies. And number two, you are asking specifically about codependency and finding the validations from your partner, like whatever you do, right?
Approval addiction.
Yes, approval. So approval addiction means validation. You are trying to
Yes, sir.
validate. You see, this is a very clear sign. This is a very clear sign that your emotions are not in balance, right? Because this comes under the excessive. This comes under the excessive chakras. And you see, whenever you have this codependency, where does this codependency come? This codependency comes when you are not comfortable, when you are not feeling comfortable within your own self. You are not feeling comfortable to be with your own self, to be in your own space, to be in your own divinity. See, at the end of the day, we are all gods, right? We are gods even now. Every moment we are gods. So if we don't realize that you are a god, and you are part of God, and everybody around you is God. So when there is a lack of this connection within you, so then you feel emotionally dependent on others. So that's where the codependency comes. So you have to look into your deeper aspects. that why you need this approval from another person. Why is that you don't feel comfortable with your own? In other words, did you love yourself? This is the question you need to ask. Do you love yourself unconditionally? So the love comes with acceptance. Now we are going to the root cause. Do you accept yourself unconditionally? Do you accept yourself as you are without any judgments? See, we all accept our positive things, but we don't accept our negative things. But the day you are ready to accept everything, both positive and negative, as it is, without any judgment, you are just simply accepting. And out of that acceptance, there is a possibility the love blossoms. So the first and the foremost factor is acceptance. You have to accept yourself as you are. You can be a positive person, you can be a negative person, you can whatever it is, without any judgment. See, the first thing is underline the word judgment. Without judgment, without criticism, without judgment, without criticism, accept yourself and connect with yourself. The more you connect with yourself, the more you are able to love yourself. So connecting with yourself is meditation. The more you are doing meditation, the more you are spending time regularly in meditation, the more you are connecting with yourself. The more you connect with yourself, the more there is a possibility that you see the beauty of yourself. And the day you see your own beauty, trust me, the day you see your own beauty, you don't need validation of another person. Because you don't see your own beauty, because you don't see your complete divinity inside you, so always there is a codependency. So the only way to break it is number one, to do regular meditation, and number two, to accept as it is. Accept as it is. And number three, whenever you are feeling emotional, whenever you are feeling vulnerable, don't try to contact anybody. Don't try to contact anybody. Just be, just try to contain that emotion. Just try to live with that emotion. Okay, don't try to immediately express, don't try to immediately convey that to anybody. Just be with that emotion, go into a meditative state and see and accept that yes, you are feeling that emotion, but why you are feeling that emotion? What is wrong in it? So the more you spend time with that emotion in a deep awareness state, asking this question, why am I feeling that way? Just that very witnessing helps you to let go of that emotion. And the more and more you practice this, the more and more the codependency reduces. Instead of, you see, instead of depending on your partner or instead of depending on your loved ones, why don't you depend on God? Yes, you are feeling emotional. Yes, you want to express it. This is codependency. But instead of depending on your partner, because the partner can change, right? The partner can hurt you back. If the partner is not receptive, then you feel more hurt. So instead of depending on the partner, you connect to God. You depend on God. So then that switch helps you to be an independent person. You bring your power back into yourself. Then you become a balanced person. So the more balanced you are, the more the people around you love you. They accept you. The more you accept yourself, the more you accept yourself, the more the people around you accept you. The more you love yourself, the more the people around you love you. So that is a very key, Gaurav. I think you have understood the zest of it. What is the root
Yes,
cause?
sir. Yes, sir, I have. I have. Thank you so much, Master. And even if for some reason our Pyramid Valley Masters would not be able to continue this series, in case if that is for the highest good of all, I humbly request you to guide us where we can get in touch with you across the globe, so that wherever we can take even one-to-one sessions, I'm open to that possibility. Even I'm so grateful, I cannot say in words, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure. Definitely, we will continue the series with the Pyramid Valley team because it's going to reach out to many, many people. And
Yes, sir.
we will
There
do
are
it.
so many souls where your work is needed and amplified many, many folds. It's a chain reaction I'm praying for, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your receptiveness. And one person being aware helps a lot of people around them. So thanks for being authentic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
The next
Gaurav.
question.
So shortly
Thank
we
you.
will be continuing because
Thank you,
as we
ma'am.
announced yesterday, so Mr. Pradeep will be joining us in the every second weekend of the month. So
Wow.
it is absolutely a series, probably with the same topic or a different topic because there are so many spiritual topics to be covered and absolutely all the souls, the quest of all the souls will be trenched. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sharon.
Yes. So we do have Tejasvi here. Yeah, Tejasvi, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Pradeep. It's
Yes,
a
Tejasvi.
crisp and a very nice session. Right to the point. I have one question from the yesterday's session and three questions about this today's session. The yesterday session, I wanted to ask this Prarabdha Karma and Sanchita Karma. So when we finish up with the Prarabdha Karma, again the Sanchita Karma baggage will be there. Again, we go face the same kind of emotional, whatever the emotional experiences or fear or whatever it is. So in that case, until we finish off all the karmas, do we have to have a mindset that yes, these kind of things will come up and we have to be like this. Say for example, news. So some bad things will be there and good things will be there. We accept and just move on instead of taking it to heart. So that is one question. Second question, I think it is related to this one only. Like when we meditate, we gain a lot of cosmic energy. And is there any depletion? I mean, will it deplete over a time, over a period of time, over that whatever over daily things we face?
Okay.
That is
First question. You see, we would have planned. Okay, I'm going to. What is prarabdha? The prarabdha is a certain amount of karma we choose, we plan to bring in this present lifetime. Suppose we are going to live for 80 years. So for these 80 years, I'm going to work on this much karma. And you are bringing in that much karma. You are planning in that much karma for the 80 years period of time. So that is your prarabdha, which is already planned before you are born. So what happens once you start doing meditation, once you are in the spiritual path, your awareness increases. So then you quickly start learning the lessons. So the more you start learning the lessons, the more you are burning of your karma, right? And more you are doing meditation, the more you receive the energy, the more you are burning of your karma, the more you learn the lessons also. So whatever you planned for 80 years, you are, for example, you are finished off in 30 years or 40 years, right? So once your prarabdha is finished, so what happens? Your soul, it is not by your conscious planning, your soul by default brings in from the sanchita, which is the reservoir. Sanchita is all the reservoir from all your past lives. So you bring in from the sanchita karma and automatically start working on it. And for example, if you have learned something, see, karma is at the end of the day learning lessons. If you have learned some lessons, you don't need to go through the same lesson again. There will be a new lesson. So for example, you have worked on the emotion of anger. You know, for example, in the prarabdha, you have brought in a karma to work on your anger, right? So you have handled it very well and you know how to handle your anger. And at the end of the day, what is anger? Anger is nothing but your helplessness. Whenever you feel helpless, you feel anger, right? People don't know why they feel anger. But if you look deeply, why they feel angry is because they are helpless. In a given moment, if you are feeling helpless, then the anger comes out. So there are certain karmas associated to learn that. So once you learn that particular lesson, then you don't need to learn the same lesson again. So in the whatever the karma you bring from the sanchita is not the same lesson, it's a new lesson. So you will not go through the same emotion again. You will go through a new emotion. You will go through a new learning. Got it?
yeah, I got it. Yes.
Right. So that's a question number one. And the question number two, and also associated with this first question, there are many meditators who have this doubt. You know, the many meditators, they say, oh, before meditation, I'm feeling okay. But after I came into meditation, my problems increased. You know, I'm started having more physical health issues and also emotional health issues. Before meditation, before meditation, everything was manageable. But after meditation, the things got haywire. Like I started getting more illness and more sickness. And what is this? Is meditation doing any harm to me? And they stopped doing meditation. So they don't understand the bigger picture. So the bigger picture is, the more you are doing meditation, the more you are working on your karma, and the more you are bringing from your sanchita. So the more you are bringing from your sanchita, the more you feel more problems. So whenever you are having any illness after practicing meditation, if you notice suddenly an illness, the illness was never there before, and after doing meditation there was an illness. So that is an indication that you have started working on your karmas quickly, fastly, and your soul evolution is going in a rapid phase. So this is one of the spiritual laws, law of hastening the progress. So the more you do meditation, the more you hasten the progress of your spiritual evolution. So this, with this understanding, you have the person has to do more and more meditation, has to do more and more bad karma, more and more good karma. He has to work on his more and more karmas and do more good karmas. Then he knows that by doing more meditation, by doing more service, I'm able to work on my sanchita. So the more you work on your sanchita, the more you are heading quickly to the path of to the enlightened consciousness. Okay, so that's your first question. And your second question is, you are doing meditation, you receive some energy, and will you lose that energy? Yes, of course you will lose that energy. If you don't utilize the energy properly, you will lose it. For example, you are doing meditation, and after doing meditation, you are eating meat. For example, if you're eating meat, then whatever the energy you receive, you are losing it. Or you are doing meditation, you receive some cosmic energy, but you are gossiping, you are complaining, then you are losing the energy. Anything you do unwantedly, you lose the energy. Anything you do consciously, you receive energy. So you do consciously the things which empower you, so you are receiving cosmic energy. Even the very work, you are doing your office work. When you're doing the office work and you are mindful of your work and you are doing only the work and nothing else, so then you will, even after working long hours, you will feel fresh, because in that working hours, your focus is only on the work. You are being totally mindful. So that's why mindfulness complements meditation. The more you are meditative, the more naturally you become mindful. So when you become mindful, then you don't lose the energy. But if you don't become mindful, then you are doing simultaneously, you are doing this work. Okay, for example, you are eating the food, but you are thinking of something else. You are thinking of your bank balance, or you are doing your office work and you're thinking of your wife and children. So what is happening? You are losing the energies. You are not focused. You are not being mindful. Whenever you are not being mindful, you lose the energy. Okay, so it is very important. You have to practice mindfulness also. So practicing mindfulness means very simple. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness means both your body and mind in one place. Whatever you are doing only that. That is mindfulness. So when you are doing mindfulness, you receive more energy in the wakeful state. If you're not being mindful, then you lose energy. As simple as that.
Okay. My third question is, say for example, this one, we'll have to forgive. We'll have to forgive whatever the bad thing happened to us. My one real time the example is, this happened with me. I got cheated, and now in that case we'll have to go to police and obviously file a police complaint and fight a case, right? So here that process is still going on. How to, I mean,
okay, you see,
yeah,
you have to understand from an energy perspective. Okay, somebody cheated you, you filed a police complaint, so you are doing the duty as a citizen. So whatever you are doing is as a lawful duty you are doing as a citizen. You filed a police complaint, that's fine. Okay, you have done whatever you need to do, you have done. But don't have that feeling inside you that he has cheated me. So that feeling, somebody cheated me, that is going to destroy you. Okay. So your forgiveness is not towards the act, your forgiveness is towards the person, and your forgiveness is towards how you feel. Okay, so somebody has cheated you, the law will take its own course. Okay, the law will take its own course, but energetically you forgive him. So in that way, you are not entangled. You are not karmically entangled. See, do you understand that somebody cheated you? It's because karmic. In the bigger picture, why somebody cheated you? Because it's a karmic thing. You don't need to understand what is that karmic thing, but simply you understand, yes, it is a karmic thing. Whatever happens, happens for a reason. He has cheated me and I have done the right thing to complain to the police, but I will see what is that lesson I need to learn. So how do you feel? So somebody cheated you. How do you feel? You feel so bad. You feel so painful. You feel somebody exploited you, right? So that feeling is so painful and so hurtful. And when you focus on that, when you realize that this is so hurting, so then you learn the lesson. You learn the lesson not to do the same thing to another person. So this is law of resonance. You know what is the law of resonance? The law of resonance is whatever the quality we have, that is the same quality we attract from the outside. In your case, you said, don't take it personally. I'm just giving an example. So in your case, you said somebody has cheated you. Now here, why did you attract the situation that somebody cheated you? Because within you, there is a small percentage, even 1%, there is a small percentage within you which has the same cheating quality. So because of this, you have that 1%, you attracted the 90% from outside. So frequency attracts frequency. So this is law of resonance. So when you understand that you have attracted somebody who has cheated you, so that means you also have the same quality. So I better look into that quality, because now I know how it really feels. Now I feel really bad that somebody cheated. So I don't want to give this feeling to anybody, and I am not going to cheat anybody in my life. So when you take that opportunity to learn that, then you are breaking the cycle of that karma, and then you become an empowered, you become an expanded consciousness, and you have learned a beautiful lesson. So in this way, every opportunity which comes in, every challenge which comes in your way can be turned into an opportunity. And once you have this understanding, then the forgiveness comes very naturally. Okay.
And the final question
I think you have a
is,
big list. Yes, go ahead.
the small question it is, as I practice astrology, I'm just trying to connect the chakras with the planet. I think the last chakra, root chakra, is connected with the sun, and this chakra is connected with the moon, I guess.
The root
That's
chakra
so?
the root chakra is connected to earth element. The root chakra is connected to the second chakra is connected to the element water.
Okay, fine. So that's all done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So next question.
Thank you, Tejasvi. So, Ananti madam, can you just read out your questions from the
Yes, Shalini ma'am. We have a question regarding, we have a lot of music and mantras on YouTube for chakras healing. So if we listen to them, will we have a chakras healing for ourselves?
Nothing will happen. When you listen to that music, you will feel a little bit relaxed, but nothing will happen.
Okay.
You will feel a little bit of relaxation, but your chakra healing doesn't happen. How can your music heal your guilt? You are feeling guilty. How can the music heal you? You have the fear energy. How can the music take away your fear? This is absolutely unscientific. So it's not possible. The answer is not possible.
Okay. Another question, sir. My daughter is too much addicted to iPad, and she is also very emotional. Very soon she'll be a teenager, and she does the Sudarshan Kriya from the Art of Living. So she wants to help her very soon. So how can we help her? Yeah.
The only way anybody can help themselves is by doing more and more meditation, and by becoming a vegetarian, and by understanding the root cause why certain things are happening in your life, and identifying the root cause, processing on your issues, and trying to integrate the lessons in your day-to-day life. So that's the only way for anybody. And for your daughter, that's exactly the same solution.
Like,
so you can try to educate whatever you have learned in this session, whatever you have learned in the session, you try to explain to your daughter, and that will be a great help, along with making her doing meditation. So when you do more and more meditation, you motivate your family members to do more and more meditation. So it is important you practice more meditation, because as you say, your daughter is going to be a teenager, so she is eventually going to throw up a lot of tantrums, right, in the future. So you need to be in a very emotionally stable place. You need to be in an emotional, as a mother, you need to be in an emotional balanced place to see the bigger picture and try to be a sensitive and a supportive mother. So the only way you can help your daughter is to work on your emotional aspect, your work on your emotional body. And by doing more meditation, you are inspiring your daughter also to do more meditation. The more your daughter does meditation, the more your daughter becomes aware. And as a teenager, she has enough intelligence and smartness to see what is the issue. And that is the greatest gift you can give to your daughter, is you doing more meditation and you being more emotionally stable and you working on your own emotional aspects.
Okay, sir.
Next.
Thank you. We have a question regarding the link with asanas and the chakras. So can you tell any asanas which will enhance?
There is no link. There is no link. Sukhasana is for meditation, and there is no link between chakras and asanas.
So my question is, like I've personally experiencing still right now I'm not yet married. So whenever we get sexual emotions or sexual feelings, so sometimes I'll be I'll compress it, or it will be like whenever I compress and it goes to extent that it comes out in a very high manner. So when we are not in relationship, so how do we balance sexual energies?
See, first, you should not suppress any emotions. So that is the bottom line. Okay. Don't suppress any emotions. You are feeling sexual, just accept the fact. It is very natural, right? The sexual energy is more of biological, because once the human body ages to a particular age, then it's a body need, it's a biological need. Okay. So the more you don't reject it, the more you don't label it, the more you don't try to suppress it, the more you accept it. It's just a body need, right? I'm just going to accept the fact I'm feeling sexual. I'm going to accept the fact, because you said you are single and you are not married. So what I would say is, as a single, you don't do unethical things. See, the sexual energy relates with manipulation. If it is not handled in a balanced way, then it turns into manipulation. So the more you suppress your sexual energies, the more unconsciously you start manipulating the other person for your needs. So make peace, accept that yes, it is a biological need, it's a body need, and definitely I'm going to get married one day, and definitely I'm going to express all my sexual needs to my loved partner. So until that day, I'm going to love more and more myself. Until that day, I'm going to be more sensitive towards myself. And until that day, I'm going to be more authentic to myself. So in the right time, the right things will happen. So when you make this kind of a dialogue within yourself, so you are diverting all that energies towards your self growth. So point number one, don't suppress it. And point number two, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel shameful about it. Don't feel guilt about it. It's perfectly all right. It is your own feelings. It is your own emotions. So you need to accept your feelings and emotions. So no judgments whatsoever. No feeling shameful. That's point number two. And point number three, tell yourself that the divine is going to support you to express your emotions in the most beautiful way. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And I saw one more question. So I've heard that whenever you are in a sexual relationship with any person, you also share the karma from the other person. So can you just give a clarity
Naturally.
about that, sir?
Naturally. So if there is an emotional entanglement, then there is a karmic entanglement.
Okay.
Where there is emotional entanglement, there is karmic entanglement. That's why you need to be very authentic. That's why I said you need to be very authentic, and you need to express in the most beautiful way. Sexual energy is the most beautiful energy. It is a life force energy. It is a fundamental energy. When you express it, in the right way, expressing it in the right way means being authentic. Okay. See, you have a choice. See, are you the body or are you the soul?
I'm soul, sir.
So you perfectly know you are not the body. So
Yes,
when
yes,
you know that you are the soul, don't you want to express that energy to a person who connects with you on a soul level?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So when your focus is to express it on the soul level, then the same sexual energy transforms into a beauty. Then there is a fusion of masculine and feminine, and that turns out to be a great cosmic play. Okay, so this is what is called the Leela.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishu. So now we do have few other members. Shashikala.
So before we go to the next question, there is a general announcement I want to make. See, the self-healing aspect, as I told you, it is on the physical level, it's on the emotional level, and also it's on the psychological level. So we have seen the root chakra yesterday, which relates to other fears. We have seen the emotions, and we are just only in the second chakra. There are totally 7 chakras. So each chakra, as we are balancing our chakras, as we are mastering our own qualities, our inner qualities, as we are transforming all the negative into positive, we go through naturally the self-healing process. So the coming month, we will continue this series, and there will be more interesting things to come. And the third chakra relates with your ego, it relates to your power center. And the fourth chakra relates to your heart center, it relates to compassion, it relates to love, it relates to relationships. And then the fifth chakra relates to your truth, your expression. And the sixth chakra relates to your ability to see the metaphysical things and your ability to come out of the illusions. And all these chakras, and the seventh is Sahasrara. So all these chakras are intertwined. So the more you understand these chakras, the more you see how intertwined every aspect of your life is. So we continue this series the coming next month, the second Saturday, Sunday. But I think we will finalize with the question answer sessions till the second chakra, which is the emotional aspect of it. Okay, so whatever the questions associated so far we have discussed, we'll go for it, and we will conclude it.
Yes, thank you, Pradeep. So I think it might be the session on 7 chakras, but as you said, if we go so very brief in that one particular chakra, so it really helps everyone to understand it clear and better. So my dear friends, you can just hold to the next month to hear about the third chakra. So thank you, Pradeep, for the announcement. We do have Balasubramaniam sir with us. So SVB sir, would you like to share your words?
Thank you, Shalini. Master Pradeep,
Namaste, sir.
Namaste. I really wonder at your knowledge about how and what meditation can give, particularly as the foundation to acquire the knowledge how to live a divine life. The subject of chakras, something is a very great. It should be known to the educationalist because we talk about Bhagavad Gita, we talk about so many sacred books. At the same time, how to live a life which is acceptable to everybody is one thing. I think meditation is the only way to learn that. And once people know about that and everybody feel the oneness among them, then I think the peace and tranquility will prevail all over. What is ultimately we need is happiness. How to get a happiness? I think the ultimate thing that can provide this is meditation. That I could really understand. And this chakra is a big subject. It can't be told in one day or 2 days. Yes, rightly, for each day one chakra is ideal to teach, and people can absorb also. Too many chakras at the same time, it will be very difficult. It's a very heavy subject, and therefore it's nice that you have decided to extend it to the next month and thereafter also. This, I am very thankful to you. I learned quite a lot. It is a great learning for me, and I wish to thank you very much for this. Thank you, Master Pradeep.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your humble comments and your feedback. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was a great pleasure having you here for these weekend wisdom sessions. So you've always been a great contributor and supporter to Pyramid Valley. Thank you, sir. Thank you, SVB, sir. Sir, how much time will it take for going to the next chakra? I don't know whether it is for the activation or for the session.
So the session wise, it will be the next month, second Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And also this, in the next session, we will integrate more healing aspects and modalities, more self-awareness aspects.
I actually wanted to know, so I'm in a creative space, I'm working in a creative space, and I just wanted to know, how do you increase your creativity in like a short span of time, especially when you are expected to deliver the most creative ideas super fast. So is there any way you can increase your creativity, especially with the speed that you are expected to deliver the work? So that's my question.
Okay. So, okay. So Sonal, it's very simple. So creativity comes from the space of stillness, right? Creativity comes, it's not from you, it's not from your mind. It comes from beyond, but mind is just a mediator which receives, which processes, and which sends through. So if you want to be more creative, the only way is to go into the space of stillness. The more you go into the space of stillness, which means in deep meditative states, the more your ability to receive and process more of the higher dimension information happens. So in short, when you do more deep meditations, when you increase your meditation time and be in that space of stillness, very naturally your creative aspect also gets increased.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a question regarding, like, I get severe headache or something like migraine more than 2 times in a week. Like, can you please tell which chakra is it associated with?
It is associated with the 6th chakra. It's associated with the 6th chakra. But again, the solution is, when we come to the 6th chakra, there will be some things, but the simple and the most effective solution is use pyramids and do more and more meditation. It is very effective in dealing with migraines and headaches.
Pradeep, good afternoon. I have a query, like, is it necessary to activate lower chakras? Then the flow should be from lower to higher. Yeah, how is it exactly?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question, sir. How are you going to activate?
No, as per my understanding, I mean, through meditation, the chakras are activating. But I have a query, like, is it from higher to lower? Yeah, lower to higher. I'm not sure.
Okay, so it is simultaneous, sir, because chakras are nothing but organizing centers of energy. It is all connected to all the chakras. The lower chakras and the higher chakras are all connected. Okay, so when you're working on your physical aspect of yourself, you are working on your lower chakras. Now, for example, the fear, the guilt, the shame, these are all the physical aspects. So when you're working on these aspects, you are working on your lower chakras. Okay, so when you're working on your truth, when you're working on your expression, right? When you're working on your intuition, and when you're working on the surrender, when you're working on the acceptance, so we are working on your higher chakras. So the lower chakras and the higher chakras, they are all interconnected. So when you're working on the fear, for example, when you're working on the fear aspect, you're working on the first chakra, simultaneously you're working on the second chakra, because the more you have the trust, the more you have your emotions also getting affected. And also the first chakra is connected to the 6th chakra. So the more you are grounded, the more you are balanced, the more you are grounded. So the more you are working on the 6th chakra, which is your Agna chakra. So the less you will be from illusions. So the more you are grounded, the more you will be out of the illusions. So every chakra is connected to everything. In the next session, I will show you the link between all the chakras. So for your question, to be precise, when you are working on one aspect of one chakra, it is also simultaneously working on the other aspects of the other chakras. Everything is related to everything. And the more you do meditation, the more you are working on all the chakras simultaneously. And along with doing meditation, bringing in awareness that this is the issue you need to work on for yourself. So when you have this awareness, along with meditation energy, with this awareness, it's a beautiful combination to heal yourself permanently.
So now we have Renu Agarwal. Renu Agarwal ji, please on your mic.
यस मैम, जब हम किसी से बात करते हैं तो अपने आप को एक्सप्रेस करने में डर लगता है। जैसे अगर मैं ये बात अगर बोलूं तो बोलने के पहले ही छाती धक धक करने लग जाती है कि मैं ये बोलूं या नहीं बोलूं करके। तो इसका क्या मतलब है? ये जैसे थ्रोट चक्र से है, तो इसको हम लोग कैसे करके ठीक करें? आप थोड़ा सा इसके ऊपर बताएं।
So the issue, yes, correct. So the question she's asking is, sometimes she wants to say something to somebody, she wants to express something to somebody, and she feels very fearful, and sometimes she cannot even express. So she was asking how to deal with it. So, madam, here, I think you understand English,
Yes,
right?
yes, sir.
Okay. So here, there are few things associated with it. So the first is associated, you have a fear energy, that you have this fear that somebody might judge you, or somebody might not accept you, or somebody cannot listen to you. So that's the fear. That's one element in this. And the second element is, along with this fear, you are feeling emotionally vulnerable. So there is this emotion element also involved in it. And also there is this element of expression, which relates to your throat chakra. So how do you work on it? Is again, the answer is very, very simple. When you are feeling this fear, that whether to speak it or not, given a choice, if you feel very strongly in your heart, see, sometimes we speak a lot of unnecessary things. So you need to double check. You need to double check within you. Is it important for me to speak it? If it is important for you to speak it, even though it is fearful, you express it. You are willing to face the consequences. So the more you do it, the more you are directly working on your throat chakra. And the more you are facing your fears, the more you are directly working on your first chakra. You see, courage means not absence of fear. Courage means, in spite of the fear, you move forward. In spite of the fear, you do what you want to do. That is courage. Okay. So the way for you to work on it, the first step, you have to be aware that whatever I'm going to express, is it really important for me? And if it is yes, you have to speak. The more you make this effort, the more you are empowering yourself, and the more you are directly working to face your fears, and the more you're working on your throat chakra, right? But if you are feeling fearful and if you don't express, you are just adding on to the existing problem. Your problem becomes like a balloon. It's going to blow out of the proportion. So I would rather say, do the check. If it is good, if it is really important for you, you express, come what may. Even if people are going to kill you, that's perfectly fine.
Yes.
There is no death for the soul. At least you will be happy that you have spoken your truth and still vacated the body. You will be very much happy for yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, madam, please go ahead.
Yeah, my question is about what is spiritual ego?
Okay, so you will understand it in the third chakra, and it is related to your sixth also. Spiritual ego simply means that you feel that you know everything. That is spiritual ego.
How we can overcome it?
When you understand that even though you know many things, you still don't know many things. When you understand the paradox, then you come out of the spiritual ego. Okay, so you wait until the third and the sixth chakra is covered, madam. I think we will deal a lot about the spiritual ego in the sixth chakra, because sixth chakra is where people get stuck in their spiritual ego. So I would recommend you ask the question after the sixth chakra. I think you will understand. You will understand in the session anyway, but if you still have the question, you can ask after the sixth chakra.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Vijayakant, please on your mic.
Sir, just I wanted to know, see, what's the, see, how see, while meditating, see, we speak of chakras. It's all about the life force. Okay, how is it related to our soul? Because when is there any correlation with the soul and life force?
Of course, that's why I explained with the 7 bodies. We have a physical body, and we have an energy body, and we have an astral body, and we have a mental body, and we have a causal body, which is our home, which is our soul. So all these bodies are, we all have these bodies. All these bodies are linked. You know, it's not separable. Like while you are in the physical body, you are having all the 6 along with this physical. So what you work on while you are in the physical body is affecting all the other bodies also. So the question, rather than is there a link, that is your question. But I'm saying, I'm saying instead of thinking is there a link, you say you are that already. You are that 7 bodies.
Yes, sir. And sir, just another question is, where is soul is located, sir, in our physical body?
Causal. It's your causal. So your causal body is your true home. That is you. Okay. So I think you missed the 7 bodies.
Thank you, sir.
Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. So thank you, friends. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Pyramid Valley, for this amazing organizing.
Thank you, Pradeep.